Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rachel Patton, Executive Director of Preserve Arkansas. Thank you for joining us today. Preserve Arkansas is the statewide nonprofit advocate for historic preservation. Welcome to Women in Preservation, the series that features women who are working to save historic places. Many thanks to our program sponsor, DMX Architecture of Fayetteville, for their generous support of Women in Preservation. Many of you are already members of Preserve Arkansas, and we thank you for your support. If you're not already a member, I'd like to formally invite you to join us for as little as $50 a year. Your memberships provide vital support to Preserve Arkansas and allow us to continue the important work of saving Arkansas's historic places. You may learn more and join on our website at preservearkansas.org. Tickets are available for our upcoming Mid-Mod Arkansas tour at the end of this month on September 27th and 28th in Hot Springs. This tour will feature the work of architect I. Granger McDaniel, whose work changed much of Hot Springs during the mid-20th century. Learn more and buy tickets on our website. And you're invited to join us for our 2024 annual membership meeting in Hot Springs on Saturday, October the 12th. Excuse me, not in Hot Springs, in Fort Smith. This year's meeting will be at the Clayton House in the Belgrove Historic District. Join us for brunch, bubbles, and a brief business meeting, and catch up with preservationists from throughout the state. You may RSVP on our website. Join us again for the next Women in Preservation talk on October the 8th with Kathy Boyette of Camden. Kathy is a past president of Preserve Arkansas and a longtime member of the Ouachita County Historical Society, who has worked tirelessly to further the cause of historic preservation in her community and throughout the state. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Natalie Biles. Natalie is co-owner and designer of Shine Interior Design Studio in Lone Oak, Arkansas. Shine serves both residential and hospitality design clients across the region and across the country. Natalie's leadership style is characterized by a big picture approach, fostering an environment where her design team and clients can envision bold possibilities. She is a passionate advocate for design excellence and is deeply committed to the success of individual clients and the broader community. Her work with Shine has led to work on several historic and adaptive reuse projects, and the Shine team finds great joy in weaving in history and stories and breathing new life into forgotten places. In her personal life, Natalie finds joy in sharing both professional and personal spaces with her husband, Ryan, in their hometown of Lone Oak, where they raised their 3 boys. Together, they cherish the simple pleasures of road trips, exploring quaint towns for inspiration, and embracing moments of relaxation amidst life's demands. Welcome, Natalie.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you. We're glad to have you. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you all for having me and for allowing me to be with you today. I have to say I have the utmost respect for Preserve Arkansas and the work that you do. I know that there are so many of you and so many who speak before and around and participate all of the time that have such a huge wealth of knowledge and contribute so much to our state and to our communities. And it's mind-blowing and it's exciting. And I cheer you on, even if it's just in passing. I love following you guys and seeing what you're up to. So today I just want to walk you through a little bit about who I am, how I ended up where I'm at and what I'm doing, and then talk to you a little bit about Shine and what we do and how we find ourselves working with historic projects and clients that have purchased maybe old properties, old buildings. We say that one of our favorite things and one of our favorite messages to get is, so I bought an old building, what do I do? And so we hear that a lot. So Like Rachel said, our work encompasses both residential and commercial. And so I'll show you a little bit about that and talk about that today. So again, my respect for your community is great. And I'm so glad to be here with you guys today. So this is my family. This is my crew. Let's see, are y'all seeing that correctly? I think we've got it right.
I don't
Great.
see your screen yet, Natalie.
You're not seeing my screen? Okay.
Not yet. You've got to share over mine.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for working me through the tech. All right.
You're
Even though we
welcome.
checked it out, here I am.
Looks great. Looks great.
All right. So this is my crew. Many of you know my husband, Ryan. We've been married for almost 21 years. We have 3 boys. And so our life is seldom quiet, but we have a good time. Ryan and I actually met in architecture school in Fayetteville. And so our stories kind of woven in from this type of work from the very beginning. Our boys are in the 9th grade, 6th grade, and 5th grade. So we've kind of left the tiny years, but we're still in the throes of kiddos in school. I grew up in Russellville, and so I lived a little while in Louisiana, but I grew up in Russellville. So whenever I was in the 7th grade, I made a poster for my career orientation class out of Barbie furniture, and said that I wanted to be an interior designer. It was the one career that I could find that blended a job with something creative. Like I just went down the path of like, what can I do with being creative and it actually be a career? And interior design was what I settled on. And when I started looking for schools and trying to figure out what do I do and how do I do this, I landed on going to architecture school. And went to school in Fayetteville. I graduated from the U of A in 2004. My first year in school, I met Ryan. I did about a year and a half of architecture school. I decided I loved Ryan, but I didn't like physics for architects. I didn't like concrete. And I was like, okay, I like this, but I don't like that. And I want to do something close. But not that. And so I ended up in the interior design department and just absolutely loved it and really found my home, and really excelled there. So that is actually where Ryan and I met. So when people are like, how do y'all work together? Like we literally, like his desk faces mine and we do have a sound partition in between it, but we've literally been working together like this since we met. And so it's kind of a natural fit for us and we really enjoy it. Like I said, I have a picture of our 3 boys. We spend a lot of time on the road, and with Ryan's work in Helena, West Helena, and in the Mississippi River Delta, we spend a lot of time on the road together, and our boys are just troopers and they're here for it and they're with us when we travel. And so we stop often at the visitor center in Helena. And I have, a decade worth of pictures of them at the visitor center on the signs. So after college, Ryan and I moved to Little Rock, and although my degree very much covered commercial design and was centered that way, I found myself being able to get a job working high-end residential. And so that's where a lot of my work experience comes from. So I have the education that goes with the commercial. I have some of the life experience that goes with the residential side of things. After our youngest son was born, Grady was born at 24 weeks. He was a micro preemie. He was 1 pound 9 ounces. I was working for a countertop store. I was doing kitchen and bath design. And Grady kind of rocked our world. And I ended up staying home He had lots of therapy. He had lots of needs, and really that was just the best choice for us and our family at that time. But after a couple of years, I was a little bit antsy and wanting to have a creative outlet. And so I actually started sewing. It was something I could do. It was kind of my smallest creative outlet. And so actually set up a booth in our flea market in downtown Lone Oak, and sold and sold pillows. And that was really where I started forming the concept for Shine. And at that time, it was just something that was simple, and that was a hobby. The fun thing is it actually was in the place that the building that's the Grumpy Rabbit. So where the front dining room is, was where I had my first start to my business. So it ended up being special in a whole lot of ways. So we started there, and I always had a dream of building a bigger business, of going into interior design on my own. And this was the starting point for that. It was a lot of fun. It was very gratifying, and it was a fun outlet while my kids were little. In 2019, Stacy Brazil and I started taking on projects together. We had dreamed for a long time. We'd been friends. We had worked for different firms. We'd worked for different places, but we had maintained a friendship because sole practitionership is it's lonely, and it's hard if you're just working on your own, especially in a creative field. And so we would bounce ideas off of each other. We would kind of vent when things that we were working on were tough. And so we had kind of always dreamt of having a business that was something we could do and still be moms. We could still have other interests, we could have hobbies, and we could still work. And so we started taking on projects together. And in 2019, we filed all of our paperwork and officially became Shine Interior Design Studio. And so at that time, it was just the two of us, and we launched the business. Slowly started taking on things. We had 2 laptops, and the fees from our first projects, I think it was probably $500, and our laptops, and that's what we started our business with. We took on pretty much anything that we could get. We did like a medical lobby, and then we did a residence, and we hung pictures and just kind of did odds and ends things. But those small projects started to grow, and today we now have 3 designers on staff. We have my sister-in-law is our executive assistant, and she works for several businesses. So we have a really wonderful staff, and I'm so super thankful for them and the work that we're doing and the work that they're putting into Shine and who we are today. So what I'm going to do is walk you through a little bit about some projects that we have done, projects that we have worked on, and kind of how they tie in. A lot of times I say that I feel like we're kind of the go-between. A lot of times we are hired by the owner, not necessarily a contractor or an architect. We do. I'm going to show you some projects that we are working on the architect side of things, but most of the time we're the owner's advocate. And so we're helping them to bridge that gap of how do I preserve what is here? How do I make it new? How do I accommodate the requirements, the building requirements, how to make it safe, how do I make it accessible? And so a lot of times we're the go-between between how do we preserve the history and how do we bring a building into modern use and make it to where it's safe and accessible and usable. So a lot of times we fall in between, and we want to preserve and honor the stories of the projects that we have. So we want our projects to reflect our clients, and we want to be able to tell their story as well. In 5 years, we've come a long way. We are an ASID firm partner member. We take our profession very, very seriously. We are all constantly working to grow, and we're also National Kitchen and Bath Association members. Last year, we were a national award winner for the small firm for ASID. And through that ASID recognition, we've had several press opportunities. And so we've really been able to break through at a national level and are having a lot of fun with it and feel really blessed and can really see quite the journey and quite the change in 5 years. So I'll start with Grumpy Rabbit. I know that y'all have heard it, you've seen it, you've been there, and I think Gigi's on the call today too. So this was something that was just so special and so personal, and we just had a ball doing it. I look back at it and I just think how absolutely just bizarre and nuts that we did this project. We didn't know that there was going to be a pandemic when we started it. And so I look back, and the further probably past we get from it, the more I look back on it and go, wow, that was insane. But this is what the building looked like when Gigi said, hey, we've bought a building. And we went through it after this. This is after a lot of it had been torn out. Dumpsterfuls had been torn out. And I know that y'all have seen some of these pictures as Ryan has talked about the project and shared it as well. But what I want to share is a little bit about our interiors process and how we love to find those stories, those little tidbits of things that we can share through the process. So it's a little tough when you have a building that looks like this and you think, how am I going to share the story that goes with that? So I did some digging through our files and found some of our old photos of just the materials and the presentation board. And so a lot of this is what we do to help our clients understand and see what the potential is for a project and for a building. A lot of times people will purchase a building or they'll purchase a home and think, maybe something can be done here, but it quickly can get overwhelming and it can be tough to see what the project could be. Our tools have changed and grown a whole lot in 5 years. And so these are SketchUp renderings and models that we did of the interior to be able to envision what that space could look like. And then it's fun to see what the space actually ended up looking like. And so these are moments that we tried to find that told a story about what was there, but told it in a new way. So just things that were existing, fire doors, and these are the doors that were shown in the previous picture that were downstairs and had been moved around a few times. Another thing that we did was we worked with the local museum to find articles about the building and about the construction process. So we framed those and with their help found a lot of cool things, including like how much they had paid for their construction supplies and those sorts of things. And so we love to be able to tell those little stories that even if there's not a whole lot left, there's still something there. And we're very blessed to have people who care a whole lot and have just kept some amazing documentation about what's there. This is something that you've probably seen, but we were able to, there was a mezzanine that was a weird height in the back. There was no way it could function for today's world or even just for people to walk up. And we were able to use the reclaimed wood to make different moments and different focal points in the project. And those just become really special moments when you can find little bits, little things that can tell a story. And we love to be able to do that. So another project, and you may think this one's a little bit of an odd one to share because it doesn't quite fit the bill of preservation, but I think it's a fun one to think about and a fun one to talk about because we did work on Draft and Table in Argenta. and everything surrounding it is historic. And the perception was that this space was historic and kind of precious. So it was really interesting, some of the comments that we received when we started work on it. Everybody was like, oh no, you're going to rip all this stuff that was historic. And actually, fun fact, yes, it was made in Ireland, but it was made in Ireland when they built it. It wasn't like historic stuff from Ireland. It's just made from a place that makes pub stuff. And so the pub stuff could be anywhere, and it could be made and ordered again today. But there was a perception of the big bar in the middle. People had a lot of memories here. So we often have the conversation, and I know that you do too, of what is to be preserved and how far do you go back and what is it meaningful to people. And so this project started, and our client was like, we're going to keep the bar. We're going to keep the giant bar in the middle, but pretty much everything else is fair game. And so we began to work through those concepts. And so I thought it would be fun to share. This is a rendering of the design process. So some things changed, and we learned a lot about that, about the space as it goes, but start to be able to envision what this space could be and what it could look like. Again, more of the concept, kind of the ideation of what the client wanted it to be and the feel that they wanted for it. And then the end result of what it ended up being. And so the bar ended up staying the center pivotal part of the space. And so even though it wasn't something that was truly historic, it was something that is a memory of what people have in that space. And it gave that space a bright new corner and just a whole new livelihood to that part of the neighborhood. And it was a whole lot of fun to work on. These parts were some historic pieces. So the paneling was something that was truly an antique. Not to the building, but something that had been purchased and used in the space. And originally they thought it wasn't in good enough shape to keep, but it cleaned up beautifully. And so the panels, the doors, and the shelves got to stay. So sometimes just giving things a good bath and a good cleaning and some deep oil, it just made it beautiful. And again, it's part of the story of the space, even through the age as it finds a new life. And so we were really honored to get to be a part of that and to be part of a district that has done so much work to bring life and entertainment and people to a lot of historic spaces. And so that was really a cool thing to be a part of. Sometimes our projects don't fully make it off the ground, or they're just a long time in process. And so this is one that has been a long process. And I just wanted to show you guys because I wanted to show kind of the ideation and what we can do. And part of what our job is to help our clients see what the space can be and what can happen at the end. So this is some of their selections and the materials for the interior of the space. And then the exterior has a plan for the paint and the facade to be restored and those things. So that one will be a fun one to see come to fruition. Another one that we have worked on, and you're not going to see our name just blasted on it because we did work for the architect in this capacity, but very honored to have gotten to be a part of it. We did work on the interior finishes for the Boyle building. And so as everybody has their pictures of standing in old buildings, this is something we love to do. And I know that I'm not alone here in that process. But again, these are projects that the size and the scope of them and the shape that the current building is in, it's very challenging for people to see and be able to envision what the finished space can look like. And so the architects, they had a lot on their hands in terms of getting all of the building and the structural and everything in progress. And so we partnered with them and we were able to produce the finished package for the project. The things that you'll see throughout when it is complete. So things like giving bathrooms, giving all of the paint and wall covering and those sorts of things, and helping it to be something that honors the space, but also that is accessible, it's functional, it's durable, and it's going to last. And just an example of many, many sheets of the details of where all of these things go and what all of that does. One of the cool things about our team is because we do have a diverse team, we are able to handle larger size projects, and we're able to handle things that have a strong architectural background, and we can pair really well with those teams, and really have a lot of fun doing it. And we have some great people, great designers on our team that can tackle the detail that goes into making sure that all of those pieces fit together. One of the other fun things that we have that's a work in process that I thought would be fun to show is we're working on a house in Fayetteville. It's a Victorian kind of style that's from turn of the century. And we're working with the clients trying to figure out and cross those lines of how do we live here and how do we honor what's on the outside. The inside was in pretty rough shape, and was kind of from the 70s. So they are working to make it livable for themselves, but also to meet the requirements of the neighborhood, or meet the requirements of the historic district. And then they're just having a whole lot of fun with it. So matching trim, looking at hardware, those sorts of things. Stacy's been working hard on this one, but to be able to show 3D rendering capacity. So we've come a long way in just a few years of what technology is able to do, and what we're able to do with that technology. So being able to provide design and rendering so that clients can understand what the potential of the space can be is really powerful, and we're really enjoying being able to do that. I'll throw in, I did a couple of years of teaching at UCA, and really just had a blast teaching residential studio to our college students, and a ton of fun. And we have a couple of them that have carried on doing some rendering work for us. So that's a little bit of our historic work and touching on that. I also included just a few fun pictures of other work that we have done, working on residential renovations, working on residential new constructions. So you can see we kind of run a wide spectrum of what we do. We love that, and that's really been a source of energy for us, and a source of growth for our business. So we have a couple more of those, and then I'm leaving a little bit of time for questions and things like that. Definitely follow us on our social media and on our LinkedIn. We share both sides of commercial, residential, and our hospitality projects. We also have a couple of continuing education presentations that we're working on. We have one on a healthy home and healthy residential construction and interiors. We have one that we're working on that we'll have ready this winter that's just about our interior design industry and working with new generations and teaching kind of the younger generations how to work with an interior designer. I had a friend who's a florist who said, I feel like I have to teach a whole generation of people how to order flowers. And we're looking forward to those opportunities to talk about and brainstorm with other people in our profession about how we engage younger generations. And always, we're here to discuss partnership opportunities and referrals. Even if it's something that you're like, hey, have you thought about this? Or would you like to talk about it? We'd love to grab coffee and visit with you and chat with you on what our experiences are, and what we do. I clearly can talk forever about this, and I know I've rambled a lot, but it's something that we're enthusiastic about, and we love helping our clients find their personality and share their stories and share who they really are. And so we try for each project to be unique, and for each project to really reflect the client and who they are. So if y'all have questions, I'm happy to chat and answer questions. Let me know what's on your brain. Oh, y'all have some good questions. Let me get in my questions. Okay, that is a very, very good question, a very hot topic on advice on balancing ADA compliance with preservation-friendly interior design on commercial buildings. We encounter that, I think, every project we've ever worked on. It's tough. I think sometimes you do have to bite the bullet, and you have to provide what works. I'm always a little sad when I go in a building and they've really and it's a new project in an old space, but they've just kind of ignored the fact that you do have to have an accessible restroom. You do have to provide for people to come in and enjoy your space. So sometimes you just have to allot the space, but work really hard to make sure that it looks like it belongs there. So it's a challenge that we face every time, and everybody's always so disappointed that they have to follow ADA compliance, and that everybody's sad and frustrated that they have to do it, but really try to look at the flip side and say, hey, we do want people to be able to be in our building. We want people to be able to experience that. And so it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, that we have to do that, and it may mess with preserving things, but look at the big picture and see what all you are preserving and what all you are having a success and a win, because you want people to be able to experience your building and experience your space. So it's a good question. It's a hard question.
That's a good answer. Thank you. Okay, I want to go back, and y'all have plenty of time to type in questions and comments if you've got them. So you've got people from all over the state watching, and then who will watch later too, that may not be familiar with the Grumpy Rabbit. So I just wanted to say, for their benefit, will you tell them quickly what the Grumpy Rabbit is now, and then explain the name?
Absolutely. And so the Grumpy Rabbit is located in downtown Lone Oak. So it was a space that Gina and Grumpy bought the building and said, we don't know really what we want to do with this. We think we want a restaurant. And Gina told us, I think we want it to be named the Grumpy Rabbit. She was like, or it has to have Grumpy in it. And so they started tossing around the name. Grumpy is Grumpy's grandpa name, and Lone Oak is the Jackrabbits. And so that's how that came to be. Gina wanted the space to be fun, and people were very concerned that it was going to be like a dark, dingy, I don't know what people thought. It's going to have a bar. It's going to, I don't know what people's perception was, but Gina was on a mission for it to be joyful and bright and fun. And it just became that and so much more. And it's a place that is for celebrating and for being with family and friends. And it has been such a joy for our community. Ryan said a lot of times that Gina's table wasn't big enough, so she had to have a restaurant. And so it really is. Their hospitality extended has been a huge blessing for our community and for tons of travelers and people passing through. So if you are in this part of the state, give it a shot, because it is, it's so fun. It's so fun. And the food's fabulous.
I agree. And a preservation award-winning project.
Yeah.
I might add. And Malin Rice has asked you, I'm going to read it so everybody makes sure they're here. Are you using locally produced ironwork in these spaces? And I love the repurposed wood as decorative pieces. Thanks for this program today.
Yes, so when we've been able to, we have used local artisans to do those sorts of things. Sometimes it's owner driven, and we won't have as much to do about that. But being able to salvage things that aren't necessarily um, like for the Grumpy Rabbit, for instance, like there wasn't a whole lot that was still left in the building. There was I'm not thinking of the right word for it. There was a heater that was left, and we made it into the hostess stand. There were bottles that were found in when they were digging up for the plumbing, and we saved those things. So I love being able to use the wood, and absolutely use local people whenever we can find and whenever we can do that.
Okay, thank you. And we love drafting table as residents of Argenta, so thank you for your work there. I have a couple questions for you, and then
Sure.
y'all still have time if anybody else has questions. First, do you have like a design hero or a place that you admire for its interior design?
I will say if I may scroll back to my things. We got to go see, we went to LA last fall, and I got to see the Eames house, and I like it made me cry. Just that Charles and Ray Eames are just so super fun. The furniture, the way they design everything, has always been a fun historical thing that I've gotten a kick out of, and was just the most fun to get to see that house, and experience that and get to see how they work, and their efforts for preservation were just fascinating. So that is definitely a highlight and one of my faves.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, you and Ryan you're obviously very busy people with three boys, three children, and you both running your own businesses. So do you have any tips for us? How do you find time to relax?
I think we're very intentional about that. And a lot of times people are like, oh, you are so busy. And yes, things are very full, and that's the way you'll hear us both respond a lot of times, but we're very protective of our time and our time with our kids. And so we try our best to maintain that. The fun thing too is that the boys have that's pretty much what they know of us, is both of us owning our businesses. Ryan started just after I did on his own, and so they're really game for it, and they're part of it, and they're very supportive, and we have a lot of fun together. So in some ways we were kind of sad like when summer was over, because we were used to traveling together, or the kids being around the office, or and now even our oldest helps some, but it's a lot of fun. It is a whole lot to have your own business, and it can be stressful. And so we have learned the benefit and the value of removing ourselves and getting away. So we try to do that at least once a quarter to just have some sanity.
Absolutely. Okay, I have one more related to having your own business. Do you have any advice for women in particular who are interested in starting their own business? Whether that's, I'm sure there's probably lots of advice, but if there's something you can think of that's something that everybody, if they're interested in that, should know or they should avoid, something like that.
Absolutely. Well, it's a wild ride and it's tons of fun. And I would say having the right people on your team and in your life, that was very crucial for both Stacy and I, and has been just insanely helpful to have. And it took a little bit of trial and error, and there's a whole lot of information out there, but boiling it down and having something very clear. So, finding CPA, bookkeeper, People that really have your best interest and cheering you on has been just game changer for us. And that has been everything from organization to bookkeeping to having coaches and mentors, and people cheering us on and people to give us accountability, has been huge. And it has really encouraged us. Whenever we kind of started out, we were like, well, you got to figure this out on your own, and you just do it and you slog through it. And we were trying to do our own books and all the design and do all of that stuff, because we had a couple of people that were like, oh yeah, you can do it, just do it yourself. And I was like, I hate QuickBooks. So I think finding your team and finding good people to surround yourself with makes all of the difference.
That's a great answer. And I too dislike QuickBooks very much. And so, yes, I'll second that very, very much that a
Yeah.
bookkeeper and a good team is essential. So, well,
Fine.
great job. Thank you so much for your presentation and your time. And thank you all for watching Women in Preservation. And we hope to see you next month in October.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank y'all for talking and sharing. I appreciate it so much.